It's just a mask, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good. It's just a vaccine, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good.
Go get a damn mask and put it on your face.
Mask on, fuck it, mask on, mask on, fuck it, mask on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We're Hit Television and Sic Semper Tyrannis News. This is now We're Hit Television because Sic Semper Tyrannis News has been suspended. No live broadcasting, no video uploads for more than 2 weeks because of what they call community violations. Now, we know that, YouTube has been on this role of censorship now and not allowing the American people to have opinions anymore about the things. And if you come out and you talk about certain things, obviously they say that you are spreading misinformation. Well, nowadays you're not allowed to have any type of opinion on anything. You're not allowed to say anything that you feel may be or may not be correct. And even if you come out with good evidence and reporting, they still will say that it's not true, and they will ban you. So that's what's happened. And right now, we know that the current, whatever it is, the current Politburo, the third Obama administration, under the puppet of Biden, are now trying to impeach President Trump. And so there was some debate on that, whether that was legal or not. They were debating, is this legal? Is it not legal to do? And so now they have come out basically and ruled that it is legal to impeach a president, even though he's not in office anymore. This is what they're doing. Okay, this is not what I believe is true, but this is what they are doing. So there was an article, American Military News, I covered a little bit of it. The Senate votes to impeach Trump with impeachment trial, and they have said it is constitutional. And so they're saying there was a vote of 56 to 44. The Senate vote determined that the chamber has the jurisdiction to try Trump despite having left office, and that doing so is constitutional. And so we know today they have been proceeding with this witch trial, Salem witch trial, in my opinion. You had Republican Senators Collins and Cassidy, Murkowski, Romney, Sass, Toomey. They all sided with the Democrats, and they're usually the usual suspects that do so. And Representative Jamie Raskin, the lead House impeachment manager, insisted that there is no January exception that allows presidents to carry out corrupt acts to evade impeachment. He maintained that impeaching Trump is now a matter of accountability. So, they have successfully pushed this idea that President Trump and people like Alex Jones incited an insurrection at the White House or at the Capitol building. And that's nothing of the sort. We saw what happened, and after that, we've seen lots of evidence coming out showing that there were some provocateurs there that set up to make this perception that it was Trump supporters who, infiltrated the Capitol building, and that all the senators' lives were in extreme danger. You had people like Ocasio was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who stated that she was in imminent danger and they were kicking the door down, even though she wasn't even in the building. And so this is what's happening. And if you read the reports, there was one police officer that died. They stated early on that he had got hit in the head with a fire extinguisher or something. But now new reports are coming out stating that's not the case. He didn't get hit with it. He died of a heart attack. It's unfortunate. No one's saying that that's good. It's very bad. I feel for his family. My condolences go out to them. But he was not killed by the Trump supporters. The only person killed was Ashley Babbitt, who was an Air Force veteran, and she was fatally shot by one of the Capitol officers who happens to be African American. Not that that matters, but who also, they shown reports where he, basically was a Black Lives Matter supporter or involved in Black Lives Matter and stated that, that Trump supporters needed to be hurt or what have you. So these are the things that they're not talking about there at the hearings today. Instead, the Democrats decide that they want to piecemeal together reports to make Trump look like he is accountable for the attacks. And so there's a few things I want to go over. So the Trump team is wrapping up their case, and in about 3 hours out of the 16 hours that was allocated, the next phase is going to consist of up to 4 hours of questions from the senators to the House managers and to Trump's legal team. And the senators are basically saying they're not going to think it's going to take that long to do. But they say our country needs to get back to work. I know you know that, but instead we're here. The majority party promised to unify and deliver more COVID relief, but instead they did this. This was Trump's attorney, Bruce Castor. That was in his closing remarks. He also called Trump the most pro-police, anti-mob president in history. And I mean, if you think about it, guys, we watched tons of rallies that President Trump and them and Trump supporters had with little to no violence whatsoever. And in most cases, when the violence started, it was because you had people coming in, infiltrators, anti-Trumpers, Black Lives Matter groups and stuff coming. But 99.9% of the rallies were peaceful because that's just what the conservative side tends to be, is peaceful, law-abiding American citizens, and who do not want to censor other people's views. I mean, we want the truth to get out, and we'll have a healthy debate with you because we'll come with facts, not just rhetoric and cliches and, just and error, basically. So, but Trump's lawyer said that Trump was the most pro-police, anti-mob president in history. And he basically was suggesting that the Democrats have turned their eyes from any BLM violence that was taking place during the protests of Black Lives Matter and Antifa groups. And he said that the attack on the Capitol was no way an insurrection. He said insurrection is a term of art. It's defined by the law. He said it involves taking over a country, a shadow government, taking the TV stations over and having some plan on what you're going to do when you finally take power. And clearly that didn't happen. This was not an insurrection, people. And he said clearly this is not what happened. Now, after they spent a lot of the morning laying out the case for why the impeachment was such a sham, former President's Trump's legal team then proceeded to play a lot of montages of the Democrats doing the exact same thing that they're impeaching Trump over. And we remember seeing this. calling for violence against Republicans. And I'm going to show you some of these clips. And then in the clips, they showed some of the violence that was being committed against conservatives following the incident. So let me show you that. Here is the first one. Let's see if I can play this.
In any way wished, desired, or encouraged lawless or violent behavior is a preposterous and monstrous lie. In fact, the first two messages the president sent via Twitter once the incursion of the Capitol began were, "Stay peaceful and no violence, because we are the party of law and order." The gathering on January 6th was supposed to be a peaceful event. Make no mistake about that. And the overwhelming majority of those in attendance remained peaceful. As everyone knows, the president had spoken at hundreds of large rallies across the country over the past 5 years. There had never been any mob-like or riotous behaviors, and in fact, a significant portion of each event was devoted to celebrating the rule of law, protecting our Constitution, and honoring the men and women of law enforcement. Contrast the president's repeated condemnations of violence with the rhetoric from his opponents.
I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters.
The vast majority of the protests have been peaceful.
Republicans stand for law and order, and we stand for justice.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
My administration will always stand against violence, mayhem, and disorder.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I stand with the heroes of law enforcement.
And you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
We will never defund our police. Together, we will ensure that America is a nation of law and order.
We were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
But I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
Feel like punching him.
We just want law and order. Everybody wants that.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We want law and order. We have to have law and order.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
We believe in safe streets, secure communities, and we believe in law and order.
So that was the first presentation by that attorney.
Tragically, as we know now,
So you could see clearly there, and that was just a few of them. That was an excellent montage, by the way, of the contrast between Trump's rallies and his speeches, telling people that we want law and order, we want to support the police, we want to support law enforcement, we want peace and law and order. Peaceful. He said this over and over. But what did the left do? They called for violence. They're the ones that called for violence. Now I'm going to go on a little bit more with some more of what the attorneys were talking about on Trump's team when it came to the Democrats and their rhetoric and their violence compared to the Trump rallies. And again, they're showing you that all of this time there was not violence in Trump rallies, other than when Antifa groups or BLM groups came there and started then, the altercations and so on. And I don't know if the lawyers and the attorneys showed that there were provocateurs at the Capitol. I'm sure they probably did show that. But here's another clip from the hearings in regards to Trump's rallies promoting peace, law and order, and the Democrats' rhetoric that truly tried to incite violence.
In the past, numerous other candidates for president have used many of the same processes to pursue their own election challenges. As recently as 2016, the Clinton campaign brought multiple post-election court cases, demanded recounts, and ridiculously declared the election stolen by Russia. Many Democrats even attempted to persuade the Electoral College.
Now, here, what he's talking about, you're going to see, the Democrats are upset that we would have any contention about the elections, that President Trump or his legal team or anybody would have any questions as to the election. Here, his attorney is showing that in the past, lots of presidents contested elections and questioned election integrity. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not out of character. That doesn't incite violence. So let's go back to that.
College delegates to. In the past, numerous other candidates for president have used many of the same processes to pursue their own election challenges. As recently as 2016, the Clinton campaign brought multiple post-election court cases, demanded recounts, and ridiculously declared the election stolen by Russia. Many Democrats even attempted to persuade the Electoral College delegates to overturn the 2016 results. House Manager Raskin objected to the certification of President Trump's victory 4 years ago, along with many of his colleagues. You'll remember it was Joe Biden who had to gavel them down.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
I object to the votes from the state of Wisconsin, which should not be legally certified.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not.
Debate. There's no debate.
And I object to the certificate from the state of North Carolina.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained. The objection cannot be entertained. Debate is not in order.
Even with the
There is no debate in order. Is it signed by a senator? There is no debate. There is no debate in the joint session. There is no debate. There is no debate. There is no debate. Please come to order. The objection cannot be received. Section 18, Title 3 of the United States Code prohibits debate in the joint session.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter
There
of
is no
objection?
debate. There is no debate. The gentlewoman will suspend.
So you see where there was plenty of them debating elections, but then when President Trump decides to do so, for some reason, that's illegal. So they spent 2 days, the Democrat management, impeachment managers, as they call them, dissecting videos and tweets. And in one case, they fabricated evidence to try to convince everybody that President Trump incited the January 6th Capitol riots. So, and I'm going to show you that. Fabricating evidence. They basically presented fake evidence at the hearing. They were caught, and they had to withdraw it, proving that they really don't care about telling the truth. They just want to punish President Trump and his followers. And according to Zero Hedge, impeachment managers led by Representative Raskin charged that following the Capitol storming on January 6th, Trump called Senator Mike Lee by accident when he really meant to speak to Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville. And impeachment manager David Cicilline said he dialed Senator Lee by accident, and Senator Lee describes it that he had just ended a prayer in the Senate chamber. Cicilline then charged that Trump asked Tuberville to make further objections to Biden's election vote count while Senator Lee stood by. It says it soon emerged that the entire claim was bullcrap when Senator Lee confirmed that it never happened. And this is what Senator Lee said. Senator Lee said, statements attributed to me moments ago by the impeachment managers, statements relating to the contents of the conversations between phone calls involving Trump and Senator Tuberville were not made by me. They were not accurate, he says. And here is where he called out the senators. Basically, I'll show you that on the air. Let me set that up here. It's real short. Let's go to that.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Pursuant to Impeachment Rule 16, I make a motion. Statements were attributed to me moments ago by the House impeachment managers. Statements relating to the content of conversations between a phone call involving President Trump and Senator Tuberville were not made by me. They're not accurate, and they're contrary to fact. I move, pursuant to Rule 16, that they be stricken from the record. Mr. President.
So that's how desperate the Democrats are to, try to get Trump in. So they lie. And so Raskin admitted that the claim was indeed false and then retracted it. So so the Democrats are basically peddling fake news. And that's why President Trump always called it fake news. But now the Democrats in the Senate who are trying to impeach President Trump are now peddling fake news as well. Here goes that part of that hearing.
The impeachment manager, Mr. Cicilline, correctly and accurately quoted a newspaper account, which the distinguished senator has taken objection to. So we're happy to withdraw it.
It's not true, and it's
on the grounds that it is not true, and we are going to
repeated it too.
Okay, we're going to withdraw it this evening, and without any prejudice to the ability to resubmit it, if possible, and then we can debate it if we need it. But it's not. This is much ado about nothing because it's not critical in any way to our case.
You're not the one being cited as a witness, sir.
So you notice how they tried to play it off, and he tried to still say it was true, and then he had to admit that it wasn't true. And then he says, well, we're going to try to present that again later if we need to, because it's not really important to the case. So if it's not important to the case and it's fake, get it the hell out of the case. But these people are idiots. And then you got Swalwell, Representative Eric Swalwell, who's always crapping on himself. He used a photoshopped tweet in an attempt to add extra weight to the post Trump retweeted. That there was a post that Trump retweeted. Eric Swalwell then turned around and used a Photoshop tweet to try to add extra weight to a post that Trump retweeted about supporters fighting for their country. First of all, we always hear people saying we're fighting for our country, right? It's figurative. In most cases, people are saying we're going to fight hard for our country. They're meaning it politically, democratically, using legal means to do so. But here is one of the reports. Let me pull it up on the screen. This is where, let me see if I can pull that up where you can see it. So Jennifer Lynn Lawrence says, I've never been verified on Twitter, so why did my tweet used in the fact-free impeachment include a verification badge? I'm assuming Democrats faked it like they are faking the whole case. Representative Swalwell, why did you add a verified badge to my tweet in your presentation? So, and I'm guessing the verified tweet is this little check mark here she's saying that that's not the case, that she has not verified anything, never been verified on Twitter, she said. And she said, he didn't just alter my tweet, he changed the whole meaning. And it says, I said exactly what I meant in the tweet that Eric Swalwell clearly didn't understand but used anyway in front of the world. So, again, you know, the desperation is there with these Democrats. And then you got Paul Gosar. Let me pull that up, too. He says, propaganda is artistic revision to alter reality and perception. These seemingly minor revisions and additions are purposeful and part of the message. And so he's shown the same thing. And then Hammy says, at Representative Swalwell, why did you present false evidence to the Senate? Isn't lying to Congress an impeachable offense? So maybe they should impeach Swalwell for presenting fake news, right? But that was some of what they were talking about when Swalwell and the Democrats were giving out fake news as true. And the Trump impeachment lawyers are going to present, well, they did present the montage of, you know, the different times where the Democrats have been, you know, basically inciting violence and saying it's okay to commit violence. But then when Trump's people do it, you know, come out and do a rally that is legal, they get upset. So that's what's happening. So we can see clearly what the goal is. In my opinion, they have to kind of burn President Trump at the stake, if you will. That's allegorical. Because they have to shut down this populist movement, as they would call it. And, you know, that's really what they're trying to do. That's really what they are trying to do. So, in other news, there are some of the other thing they did was, you know, in the impeachment hearings, they were trying to make Trump look like, remember at the Charlottesville when Trump said that there's some fine people on both sides of the protesting. He was referring to the people who wanted to go there just to protect the statues that they were trying to tear down and so on. So there was an attorney who, again, representing President Trump during the impeachment trial, who basically destroyed this whole lie that the Democrats have been trying to weave into this narrative of the media that, you know, Trump was calling neo-Nazis and white supremacists fine people. And during this testimony, attorney David Schoen presented video evidence exculpating him from that lie that he called neo-Nazis and white supremacists who attended the Charlottesville protests very fine people. And I want to show you, this is Jack Posobiec presented this on his tweet, but this is the Trump defense team destroying this whole lie that Trump got up there and said, oh, there's some very fine people on both sides, you know, he loves neo-Nazis and so on. So let me set that up and show you this. This is in the Senate hearing. It's real short, but it is very to the point and very accurate, and this is what people need to see. So here is the truth, people.
Well, this lie traveled around the world a few times, made its way into the Biden campaign talking points, and ended up on the Senate floor. the Charlottesville lie. Very fine people on both sides, except that isn't all he said. And they knew it then, and they know it now. Watch this.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No,
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have, you have an infrastructure.
What makes you think? This might be today the first time the news networks played those full remarks in their context.
So that right there, guys, shows you and proves to you Trump, condemned white supremacists, the neo-Nazis. He condemned the actors on the left and the right, and he said, but there are also fine people out there who are just there to protest the tearing down of these statues because they're, Americans that love their history and they don't want to see everything destroyed. And that's what Trump was saying. He's like, are we going to take down George Washington and all these people? There were a lot of slave owners back then. But a lot of things that these men did, too, that were good for the country. And we have to remember our history. Those who fail to learn from their history are doomed to repeat it. But this is where the attorneys just dissected that and tore apart their whole garbage lie that Trump just got up there and, praised white supremacists and neo-Nazis, calling them fine people. This is not true. So he, aired this footage, shown how, and you've seen in the video where they edited portions of it to take out the positive side of where Trump was saying, no, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis. I'm not talking about white supremacists. They're not the fine people. They're the bad people, and so on. And so he said this is the first time that these people may have even heard anything about this. So right now there is a purge going on, people. There is an attack on our country. There's an attack on our freedoms. There's an attack on the ability for us to give an alternative side of the news, which is not misinformation. It is the facts. But it's not facts that are convenient for the left. It's not facts that are convenient for the globalists, so they get pissed off about it and they try to find ways to censor. And if you look at YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, all of them are leftist groups. So obviously they are biased. obviously they are going to censor anything that they perceive as negative, anything that they perceive as misinformation, because it doesn't go with the narrative of the Great Reset, and this globalist takeover and this communist takeover of our country. So I want to show you, it's a short video, it's at ban.video, about this globalist purge that is coming. That is imminent. It's a good video, so I'm going to play that right now. This is a ban.video, very good report. So here we go. I'm gonna break that now. Let me set that up.
His inauguration speech, Joe Biden spoke of confronting and defeating domestic terrorism.
A rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat.
John Brennan, former director of the CIA, went on MSNBC that evening and labeled libertarians as domestic terrorists.
I know, looking forward, that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians.
A libertarian is a supporter of a political philosophy that advocates minimal state intervention in the free market and the private lives of citizens. A person who advocates civil liberty. But now, in America, a libertarian is a terrorist. A Trump supporter is a terrorist. A constitutional American is a terrorist. Make no mistake, tyranny has arrived in America. And history tells us what comes next. The tyrants will now go after all political dissidents. There was a time when the liberal media supported democracy and freedom. During the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, the American media seemed to recognize the dangers of the CCP. But now, along with Hollywood and major sports, the news media is all owned by globalist multinational corporations and the CCP. The pop culture media machine has made all of this possible, and it is now busy preparing their brainwashed flock for mass arrests and re-education camps. A Bernie Sanders staffer and the principal counsel for PBS were separately caught on camera calling for rounding up Trump supporters and putting them in re-education camps. But that was before Biden was in the White House. Now it's all out in the open. Popular morning television co-host Meghan McCain, daughter of John McCain, who funded ISIS and Al-Qaeda in the ongoing war on terror debacle, says that American patriots need to be treated the same as Al-Qaeda terrorists.
I'm not against sending these people to Gitmo, and that may sound extreme. These are domestic terrorists who attacked our own republic. They should be treated the same way we treat Al-Qaeda.
MSNBC's Nicole Wallace suggests the possibility of killing Americans with drone strikes.
Attacking terrorism at its root, of going after and killing, and in the case of Amr al-Awlaki, an American, a Yemeni American, with a drone strike for the crime of inciting violence, inciting terrorism.
Regional Director of California Democrats unapologetically suggests rounding up 75 million Americans and putting them in concentration camps. Americans are now being psychologically prepared for the rounding up, brainwashing, torture, and mass murder of American patriots.
It is critical that the FBI does launch the largest manhunt in U.S. history, drag all of these people into prison, and if they're inside the Capitol for a full 20 years for committing sedition against the United States of America.
Question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
Almost all white, almost all Republicans who somehow need to be deprogrammed.
Once we educate them, we coach them on how to interact.
We probably need to double, triple, quadruple, or increase funding for these de-radicalization programs.
Biden's press secretary announces how leftist NGOs will be involved in performing threat assessments on domestic terrorists, meaning If you oppose their Marxist ideology, you are a threat to them. This is all part of the leftist playbook. The Weather Underground was planning for this in the 1970s.
They felt that this counter-revolution could best be guarded against by creating and establishing re-education centers in the Southwest, where we would take all the people who needed to be re-educated into the new way of thinking and teach them how things were going to be. I ask, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
It is now undeniably here. H.R. 127 will require psychological evaluations and a public database for all gun owners. With the entire nation divided into patriots and obedient cowards, they know who you are, and they know they have the support of the brainwashed masses. They have been preparing the entire world population with COVID-19. Almost a year ago, the WHO's Dr. Ryan announced that they will be entering people's homes and removing family members.
Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
The leftists in power are ready to break our will. They will cut off the power. They will shut down our businesses. They will destroy anyone who stands in their way. And they are now vetting the military to weed out any patriots who might have a problem with the unlawful mass arrests of American citizens. And you can be sure that at least one major false flag, if not several, is already being planned to act as the catalyst for all of this. Another Oklahoma City bombing to blame on libertarian terrorists and American constitutionalists. The new war on domestic terror is beginning. Don't expect it to go slowly. If you are not making decisions and actions today as if your very life depends on it, then you are still asleep in the matrix. Wake up before it's too late. That day is coming fast. For Infowars.com, this is Greg Reese.
So, people, it is coming fast. We've been talking about this at Six Semper Tyrannis News and We're Hit Television I've been doing for 13 years now. And now we're seeing it. We're seeing this escalation of this technocracy, of this great reset, with more and more power being given to the United Nations, the World Health Organization, to leftist organizations, NGOs, and what have you. So be prepared. I am asking for everyone to please like, share, and subscribe. This is a new channel. I want to get as many subscribers as possible. Please share this video on your social media. Please share it far and wide with your friends, family, anybody you know on social networks, on any groups. Please get it out, okay? I do appreciate it, and I am going to sign off for now. But remember to protect your own rights, because if you don't, no one else will. And I thank you for watching.
It's just a mask, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good. It's just a vaccine, you guys. Don't be a jerk. It's for the greater good.
Go get a damn mask and put it on your face.
Mask on.